Now, hopefully, you've had time to pull up this workshop. What we're doing today, I told you already, I want to do this quickly. Now that's a relative term. If you cast your mind back, usually when we do a workshop, God, what does it take, 40 minutes or some obscene number? Yeah, I am sorry about that, to a degree. So today will be faster than that. How much faster? I don't know. What we're looking at, this is student work, like we always do, so of course be respectful. But this is a body paragraph from the paper that is quickly coming due. I can't get the whole thing on the screen, by the way. I guess I'll wait a minute and scroll, but I would just recommend you use your phone. What we're concerned with, the three parts of a body paragraph, which I guess we should go ahead and review. What are the three parts? What do you start with?
Topic sentence.
Topic sentence. What's the topic sentence supposed to be? It's kind of like a thesis, actually.
Kind of like an intro. Or what the rest of the paragraph's going to
The
be.
main idea of your paragraph, right? If you had to, and you kind of do, sum up your paragraph in a single sentence, that would be this guy. So it's kind of like the thesis of your body paragraph, another way to think of it. Should be an argument, hopefully, because you should also be making an argument in your body paragraph. Good. What's the second item?
Evidence.
Evidence. Oftentimes a quotation, but in this case we're working with a film, so not necessarily, right? Could be some visual aspect, could be some other rhetorical aspect. The important thing is it needs to be specific. Hey man. I sent you an email. You want to open it? All right. So it needs to be specific is the only thing. Do not, please, try to talk about an entire scene, right? Or several minutes from the film. You don't have room for that, right? Be specific. Last but not least, what's the third item? Analysis. This is where you talk about the evidence, hopefully to prove some kind of an argument, right? Whatever that might be. And then of course that argument needs to be reflected in the topic sentence. Body paragraph works well together. That's what we're after, okay? What I want you to do is two things. One, read over this paragraph to the best of your ability. Do we have those three parts? I'm gonna give you a hint. We do. It's not really a hint, is it? But how good a job do we do, okay? There are some issues, and I know this is a stupid scavenger hunt, and that bums me out, but I need you to try to figure out what those issues are. There's one in particular I'm really concerned about. This will be a hint, actually. I don't give a shit about grammar right now or syntax. Most of you are not stellar writers. That's okay. Weirdly, the knives come out when we do workshop, though. You're like, this guy doesn't get commas. We're not worried about that today, okay? There's a bigger picture issue that I want to make sure we talk about. So to the best of your ability, take a couple minutes, read over it. We're going to talk about it. First of all, I know this is a super small thing, but this is the sort of thing that might trip some of you up. Can we all agree they probably mean relatability here? Reading that real quick, that's what they mean, right? Okay. So we'll change that so people don't get slipped up. Okay, that's the only, hopefully, small thing we're going to look at now. To the best of your ability, what's like the one big thing that's a bit of a problem in this paragraph? Because again, we have all three parts: topic sentence, evidence, analysis. We got it. We're talking about credibility, relatability, that's the rhetorical stuff. Yes, ma'am?
This might be really far off.
Go for it.
But I feel like they had like two forms of evidence.
What do you mean by that?
Like they started off with saying, was talking about how Ben was walking into school on stuff. And then almost right after that, they like give a quote.
Yeah.
And then give more analysis on the quote than what he was talking about first.
I agree. To be totally clear, that's not quite what I was looking for, but I will say what you've identified actually leads to the problem, and it is this. So we'll start with yours, because it's a good observation. Like I'm fond of telling you guys, you don't really know what you want to talk about, right? I'm of a mind they probably thought, given the way this is written, that they were going to talk about Ben walking in and his dopey ass and like just the way he moves through the world with his phone, right? And then they gave us the quotation and their brain went, yeah, about that instead, right? So, in your dark moments when you're working on this paper right before it's due, because that's how you guys operate, you want to look for places like this where initially you really planned on maybe talking about Ben, right? Walking in. You could do that. But as it turns out, you didn't. You talked about something else. So at least that part is kind of an easy fix, right? Let me see. 'Cause we need some of it for context, right? But seeing fully around the garden trying to do. Honestly, I don't. Let's do this. A little bit of surgery. We can cut that. And this, to me, reads like some of their analysis, right? So let's actually keep that and just move it there. We get to our evidence much quicker, which I almost always appreciate. You could sprinkle in a little more context, maybe, like maybe I took out the editorial machete a little bit too strongly, okay? But either way, topic sentence, we got to our evidence super quick, and now we're just diving into our analysis, like basically for the rest of the way. That's outstanding from a structural standpoint. There's still one big issue though. I'm curious if you guys see it. Oh, go for it.
Is the argument they're trying to make a bit too broad?
Yes, actually. Do you know why? Or do you, there's a reason it's not quite working.
In regards to their topic sentences, there were countless scenes where those keys you could put such and such to do whatever.
We could for sure be more focused in that regard.
Yeah, and I mean like even like, because that's totally true, but like just for the purpose of this paragraph, they should just focus on this one scene.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, I think if we could get more specific in our analysis, that would help us probably with our topic sentence, right? So really the crux of the issue is there's something with our analysis that isn't quite working. And I'm just curious if anyone can try to pin that down for us. Because it's okay. It's okay. I want you to understand that. It's not bad, but it could be better. Looking at the quotation, okay? It's a pretty good quotation. Is it on screen? Yeah. Everything they're doing online is, I think he means I would assume. Everything you're doing online is being watched, is being tracked, is being measured. Every single action you take is carefully monitored and recorded. Exactly what image you stop and look at, or how long you look at it. Now I say that's a good quotation. I'm curious if anyone happens to agree with me. Why is that? Why is that a good quotation? What about it? No, I worry no one agrees with me. Let's try something a little different. What's the deal with that quotation? What idea is he communicating?
That companies do nothing but watch you and monitor you.
You know, we have a good word for that. When somebody watches you and monitors you, they stalk you. Now, we don't call it that, but it sounds a whole lot like what he's describing, right? And it's constant. And it's detailed. That whole business about what image you stop and look at and for how long, like that's creepy. To me, at least. Do we, and this is where I let the cat out of the bag, do we talk about any of that in regards to the quotation? No. Not at all. We talk about the experts and the fact that they're credible, which again is a fine thing to do. That's kind of all we do, right? We just swirl around that point. Honest to God, we get a lot of mileage out of that point. But it's a little bit repetitive as a result. And the way I would describe it to you, this is what I call a missed opportunity. Okay? This is one of those things, I hate to quantify it like this, but this is what you guys crave. This is probably the difference between a C or a B paper and a B or an A paper, honestly, is the kind of analysis we're talking about. You gotta dig into details. I know I've said that to you. I know you're sick of hearing it. But this is what we mean. If you're gonna quote, especially, you have to work with the quotation. You have to. What about it brought it to your attention? Why are you showing it to me? It can't just be the guy that said it, because you can just talk about that guy. We don't need his words. Do you take my meaning? So here again, we're gonna be done with the workshop. That's kind of like a world record for me, right? 15 minutes into class. But that's the point. Especially if you quote, or whatever specific thing you pull out of a scene, whatever it is, talk about that thing. You can start with something general, which is for sure what we did with credibility. Fine. But what is that credibility doing? What message does it magnify, or anything like that? You'll do a lot better on the paper, which I know is all you really care about is your grades. Questions about any of that? Outstanding. All right. What we're going to do now, we're going to turn on some lights. All right, peer review. A couple things. Also, real quick, Maya, did you get turned and pulled up on your?
Yeah, I don't know. I was on laptop, but it kept saying error, but they're good now.
It works?
Yeah.
Well, fuck yeah. Hey, look, I know it's a bit of a bummer and you feel like an ass maybe, but if it works, it works.
Yeah.
It's all good. That is weird though. So like it wouldn't work at your dorm or something?
No, like I was in the library trying to get it to work, and that's where I had like the best connection. It just
Huh.
not good.
Okay.
And I tried it on my phone.
Yeah, I mean, you may want to just have a different, like Chrome or just some other browser, because sometimes that's a problem, especially if you're using Edge. That's what my wife's parents use. I'm just, so I just, anyway, all right. Okay, peer review. A couple things about this. Number one, if you turn in a rough draft, and the settings are super finicky, but I believe even if you turn in a rough draft like right now to turnin.com, it would let you do the peer review, okay? The way it works, you have to have submitted a rough draft, but then if you go to turn it in, you have that next little assignment right under it. You click on that, it will randomly give you somebody else's rough draft. There's 4 questions. Obviously you attempt those, blah, blah, blah. That's how that'll work for you. If you have not submitted a rough draft, and I've been doing this long enough to know that that's not an insignificant number of you, I'll tell you this. You have some options. Now, number one, I sent the peer review questions to you guys in an email. It should be in the neighborhood of the workshop piece that I sent you, okay? Open that up. Your options are these. You can either trade your paper with somebody else nearby who didn't turn in a rough draft, which will not be terribly difficult. I'm just gonna say it like that. And or you can take those questions and, to the best of your ability, look at your own paper with them in mind. I want to talk to you for just a second about why we even peer review, though, in the hopes that you will trade with people, and it is this. Many of you, in my experience, are under the misconception that a peer review is to make your paper better by having a classmate look at it. Because all of you are experts, right? And when you look at someone else's paper and they look at yours, it's a guaranteed, hey, they're gonna catch everything, it's gonna be fine, right? Exactly. That's kind of dumb when you put it that way. That's not what it's for. Now, granted, the world would be a better place if we all just tried to help each other out. So in the interest of maybe human beings being 1% better, do your partner a solid, whoever that is, and actually give a shit when you peer review their stuff. Hopefully they'll do that for you. There you go. But the real reason we do peer review, it's the selfish one. The thing you guys struggle with most is editing, okay? We've been over it enough times, I hope, for me to have drilled into you. First draft, second draft is almost never great, right? Even for me, that's the case. You get your thoughts down, and then you see it, and it's a big mess, and you gotta fix it. That's the editing process. But that's not something you guys are super practiced at. But weirdly, when you look at somebody else's work, a lot of the time, you see all the problems, right? You can pick out a lot of the issues, and it's so much easier. The reason is, the theory goes, you're not in their brain, okay? So you can be more objective. When you look at your paper, you miss so much because your brain fixes everything. Your brain goes, oh, this is what you meant. This is what you're saying there, you know how we talk. But somebody else isn't gonna do that for you, okay? So the idea here is, if you actually approach a peer review with a modicum of enthusiasm, okay, you're gonna build that editorial muscle. And if you do that enough, eventually you get to the point where you can apply that to your own work, right? That's what it's for. So I say that to say, if you could please, give like 5% of a shit when you look at somebody else's work for the peer review. It will help you. Anyway, so if you submitted a rough draft to turn it in, like I said, you click on the peer review, it should give you somebody else's paper. You got those 4 questions, you're good to go. If not, you have an email from me with those same questions. And I would recommend trying to switch with somebody, be like, hey, this is what I got, I'm not super happy. Do the whole song and dance you're gonna do where you're like, it's not my best. That's fine. But then take those 4 questions on and see what you can come up with. Yes, ma'am?
I can't find the peer review.
It should be on turnitin.com. Alright, so no one ever takes me up on the next thing I'm about to say, but I want to say it anyway. Some of you are still working. That's perfectly fine. We have this room for another 20 plus minutes. If you want to work a little bit, do that. None of you will, but you full on can, okay? Anyway, what I like to do on days that I have you draft, I was so hoping you would get here because we're gonna leave and you would have had questions. Anyway, what I like to do on days that we draft is let you go a little early as a reward. It seemed like you guys are working fairly diligently, or at the least you were pretending to, so that's what we're gonna do. For next time, a couple things. Before we meet, actually, this Friday, I have it written down as the 9th. I hope that's correct. I'm terrible with dates. Your final draft is due by midnight, okay? Let's do that. As I said, not everybody got the rough draft in before class today. I'm not gonna say that's fine, to be honest with you, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It's really not. The reason it's not fine though is because if you don't have a rough draft before this class, that just means you got more work to do to get your final draft in, right? So, but either way, that's the guy that matters, all right? Get your final draft in by midnight, Friday night. I'll probably say this a few times to you in different ways. I don't know your schedule. I don't know your life. I understand Friday night is not an ideal deadline for folks for all kinds of reasons. I get that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not an asshole for that. Here's what it means. Say you have to work, or let's be super honest. Say you have shit you'd rather do on Friday night. Be honest with yourself. That's part of school. That's part of like, you're supposed to be an adult now. That's what it is. What am I going to do versus what am I gonna tell myself I'm gonna do? It's like when you go on spring break and you're like, I'm gonna do all my work. No, you're not. No, you're not. Be honest with yourself. Are you gonna work on this a lot Friday night? Probably not. Maybe, like 2% of you. But for the most part, no. Okay? Be honest with yourself. Could you maybe give it a look and then turn it in? Could you maybe do a couple tweaks for like 20 minutes Friday night and then go do whatever the hell it is that you can't tell me about and I don't want you to? Yeah. Maybe you could do that. But this whole, well, I got a page left and I'll knock it. No, you won't. You won't. So maybe your real deadline, roughly, is like Thursday night, you know, because you guys stay up way later than I do at this point. Something like that. Friday morning. Maybe sometime Friday morning is your real deadline. Do that. Have that bit of honesty with yourself. It tends to work out better. Anyway, it's due Friday night at midnight, okay? If you haven't logged in to turn it in yet, do that before. You know, there's shit happens with it. You want to have those problems now as opposed to when you're screaming internally Friday night. All right. Other than that, next time we meet on Monday, we're going to start talking about paper 2. I just want you to set eyes on the prompt. Okay. You go into course 10. You've been in unit 1. You click on unit 2, and then you look at that prompt. Just look at it. Read it. You know, we'll talk about it. Also, I want you to watch a video on all right, you're good then. She is good, but it's just hella distracting. All right, paper 2 prompt, look at that. We're gonna talk about it. And I need you to watch a video before we meet on Monday, okay? It's like 20-ish minutes, 30 minutes. It's not long, you can watch it. It's one of the texts, because you have choices this time, that we can write about for our second paper, okay? Does that make sense? The big deal, turn your paper in Friday by midnight. For Monday, look at the prompt, won't take you 5 minutes, watch a video. That's it. Great, I'll see you then. Thank you.